In a truck parking lot, a dump truck's raised cargo bed suddenly dropped while a driver was underneath performing maintenance, crushing him when the hydraulic lifter failed. The massive bed came down without warning, trapping the worker beneath its weight before anyone nearby could intervene. What began as a routine inspection quickly became a fatal crushing incident. This incident highlights the deadly risks of working beneath unsupported raised loads. Dump beds must always be secured with mechanical safety props or blocking before anyone goes underneath. Hydraulic systems alone should never be trusted to hold elevated equipment, and proper lockout and support procedures are essential to prevent catastrophic failures. In a lumber processing plant, a worker's hand was pulled into a spinning lathe while a large log was being turned, drawing his arm in up to the shoulder. The machine began to malfunction and smoke as co-workers froze in shock, unsure how to respond or safely approach the trapped worker. Within moments, the powerful rotation turned a generally safe woodworking operation into a fatal entanglement, leaving the worker unconscious and eventually non-existent, while others stood helplessly nearby. This incident highlights the extreme dangers of rotating machinery and unguarded work zones. Lathes must have proper guarding and emergency stop access, and workers must keep clear of moving parts. In a construction site, an engineer was suddenly run over and flattened by an excavator, whose operator failed to notice him in front of the machine. Another engineer narrowly avoided being struck moments later, getting bumped by the machine. What began as a site walkthrough by the engineers instantly turned into a devastating runover incident, sending workers rushing toward the scene. This incident highlights the dangers of blind spots around heavy equipment and poor situational awareness. Excavators must operate with spotters when pedestrians are nearby, and exclusion zones should be clearly marked and enforced. Operators must stay alert at all times, while site personnel should wear high-visibility gear and maintain safe distances from moving machinery. In a roadside tire shop, a dump truck tire suddenly exploded while being inflated, even launching the wheel hub like a cannonball and striking the 3 workers nearby. The violent blast threw them to the ground and out of the frame in seconds, turning a normal tire service into a devastating accident. This incident highlights the extreme dangers of inflating heavy vehicle tires without proper safety measures. Truck tires must be inflated inside safety cages, with workers standing clear during pressurization. Using remote airlines, enforcing exclusion zones, and following proper tire servicing procedures are essential to prevent deadly tire explosions. In a storage facility, a forklift suddenly crashed into a metal pole after its operator drove into it, appearing impaired. The impact jolted the vehicle, damaging the fork frame, as coworkers went to him, finding the operator attempting to argue and explain himself instead of acknowledging the danger he had just caused. This incident highlights the critical risks of operating heavy equipment while impaired. Forklift operators must be fit for duty at all times, and facilities must enforce zero-tolerance policies for substance use. Supervisors should conduct readiness checks, while coworkers must report unsafe behavior immediately to prevent potentially fatal accidents. In a demolition project, a suspended stack of usable sheet metal suddenly dropped from a crane when its lifting cables failed, crushing the spotter guiding the load beneath. What began as a controlled material transfer instantly became a fatal crushing incident, halting operations. This incident highlights the deadly risks of standing beneath suspended loads. Crane lifts must be conducted with strict exclusion zones, and workers should never position themselves under raised materials. Rigging equipment must be inspected before every lift, and spotters must guide loads from a safe distance to prevent catastrophic failures. Outside a post office, a forklift carrying stacks of mail and boxed packages blocked its operator's forward visibility as it moved toward a ramp. A pedestrian walking nearby was run over and dragged along the ground by the vehicle until a coworker noticed and forced the operator to stop. The victim lay severely injured as bystanders rushed to provide assistance and called for an ambulance. This incident highlights the dangers of operating heavy equipment with obstructed visibility in busy pedestrian areas. Forklift operators must ensure clear lines of sight or use spotters, and pedestrian exclusion zones should be strictly enforced. Proper training, awareness, and adherence to safe operating procedures are essential to prevent catastrophic runover accidents. In a nearly finished 3-story parking structure, The entire floor suddenly collapsed while workers were carrying out routine tasks on the third level. The whole structure gave way without warning, sending multiple workers crashing down amid concrete, steel, and debris. What began as normal operations instantly turned into a mass casualty incident, leaving several workers severely injured and in shock. This incident highlights the dangers of structural instability during late-stage construction. Temporary supports and load limits must be strictly followed, and completed sections should be certified safe before allowing personnel access. Continuous structural inspections, proper shoring, and adherence to engineering plans are essential to prevent sudden collapses and protect workers on elevated sites. In a mall, an elevator suddenly activated while a technician was repairing it, trapping his hand in the internal mechanism and severing his fingers. A co-worker nearby immediately called for help as the injured worker held his profusely bleeding hand up. The unexpected movement of the elevator left little time to react, putting even the professional in danger. This incident highlights the critical importance of lockout and tagout procedures during equipment maintenance. Elevators must be fully powered down and secured before any repairs begin. Clear communication, control of energy sources, and verification that systems are isolated are essential to prevent accidental startup and catastrophic injuries. In an automotive shop, a large truck tire leaning against a wall suddenly tipped forward and fell onto a child who tried to climb on it. The heavy tire pinned the boy to the ground, prompting workers to rush over, with several men needed to lift the tire off him. What started as a moment of curiosity instantly turned into a frightening, crushing incident. This incident highlights the dangers of unsecured heavy objects in active workplaces. Children should never be allowed in industrial areas, and shops must maintain controlled access and clear safety boundaries to prevent avoidable accidents. On a town road, a pedestrian was accidentally bumped backward by a worker handling electrical cables, sending him off balance and directly into the path of an oncoming fire truck. The truck struck him and was just about to run him over when the same worker realized what was happening and sprinted to the front, forcing the vehicle to stop in time. This incident highlights the dangers of mixed pedestrian and vehicle traffic in active roadwork areas. Work zones must be clearly barricaded, with spotters managing vehicle movement and safe pedestrian pathways established. Maintaining situational awareness and physical separation is essential to prevent tragic run-over accidents. In a warehouse, a worker was struck and run over by a reversing forklift, preparing to transport a load, then dragged further when the operator drove forward again in confusion. The operator appeared unsure how to respond and stepped away from the vehicle, leaving the injured worker on the floor and the forklift in the same position. What started as routine material handling instantly became a severe run-over incident, shocking everyone nearby. This incident highlights the deadly risks of forklift blind spots and untrained emergency response. Clear exclusion zones, reversing alarms, spotters, and proper operator training are essential to prevent forklift-related injuries.